Hey guys, what's up? It is Josh here, your Friday guy on Transwolves. I'm sorry that I missed last week's video. I've been really stressed out with school and work lately, and my cat had surgery. Not this one. This one just came up to me right before I filmed, so I figured I'd hold her. Um, but Moo had surgery, and I had to bring him there, and that happened last Thursday. So Friday he was home with a drain in and a cone on his head, and he was not really himself at all. He was very upset and uncomfortable, so I was busy with him, and I was busy with work and school. So I apologize for not being here last week. This week we are talking about therapy. Um, I started going to gender therapy when I was 14 and a half years old, about 3 months after I came out. I started going to therapy in September 2011, and I had to go about 55 minutes to an hour away. Um, and the reason for that was because that was the closest therapist at the time that had good knowledge about gender identity and would be able to, like, I don't know what the word is, but she was able to write out my testosterone letter and my surgery letter um, qualifications. She had those qualifications. Um, and so to get to her, we just asked my primary care doctor if they knew of anybody. And so they did a search for us and then told us about this person. And so that's who we went to. I went to see somebody named Darcy. Um, and I don't want to say where she is because that'll give away my location. Um, but I started going there, and it was just for gender. Well, actually, it wasn't really just for gender. She actually ended up diagnosing me with generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, and at the time, gender identity disorder, because back then, in 2011, that was still something in the DSM. Now it's gender dysphoria, but I was diagnosed with gender identity disorder at that time. So we talked mostly about my transition. We did talk about anxiety and depression and stuff, but not that much. We mostly talked about my transition. In the first year, we did talk a bit about my anxiety and depression because I was missing school because of it and stuff like that. And then that all tied into my transition because the reason I was having those issues was because of my transition and not being accepted at school, stuff like that. And so, she ended up writing my T letter for me when I turned 15 and a half. And I think she would have written the letter earlier, but she couldn't or something like that. Or I think we might have just held off because we knew that I wouldn't be able to get on T till I was 16 anyways. But she wrote it for me when I was 15 and a half. That way when I was 16 I was ready and able to go. And I think not all therapists do this, but for I think quite a few therapists you have to be in therapy for at least 6 months to get your T letter, and I was there for a year before I got mine. And so when I was 16, I did the whole testosterone thing, and she saw me getting more confident. We talked about my changes and everything like that. And she's like a really, really nice person, a really nice therapist. The therapy her office is actually in a mental health institution. And so that was kind of interesting. So I just went up to her office, outpatient therapy and stuff like that. And it's, it was good. I enjoyed talking with her, and I really liked talking about myself at that point of my life. I still kind of do. So it was nice having somebody to talk to when I wasn't having my low moments that I needed to talk about. I would talk about my good moments with her. She wasn't just there for the good, she wasn't just there for the bad, she was there for both. We talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. Sometimes she asked if I would let my mom come in to talk to her, and I'd have to say yes or no, because at that place you become an adult when you're 14. So I had to give her consent to talk to my mom. But yeah, everything went really well with her. I was there for 3 years, and she got me introduced to a transgender potluck, so I went there a few times, and I wish I would still be going there, but my life is just crazy hectic, and it's an hour away, so it's very difficult to get there. I usually only went when I had therapy on those days. But yeah, she's a really nice person. And, you know, I felt like I got a lot out of therapy with her. And I'm glad I did it. I needed it. Especially if I wanted my T letter and surgery letter. But I found out as I went through my first year of therapy that I really needed it for anxiety and depression too, and because that all tied in with my transition, I didn't realize that, I didn't recognize it, and she did right off the bat, so it was really nice having somebody to talk to outside of my family who doesn't just, kind of say, okay, yeah, but actually tries to help you, because, that's her job. So it was nice. Yeah, that was my therapy for gender. I did go to therapy when I was younger a little bit, having to do with my biological dad, and I was upset about my parents' divorce. That I was only in therapy for a little bit for that though, and I haven't been in therapy since 2014. I might go back at some point. I probably will, not for gender, but for anxiety. My depression is pretty much just diminished. It's just, it's every now and again I'll get a little bit depressed, but it won't be super bad. At this point in my life, my anxiety and stress is what's really taking me over. So I'm probably going to end up going back to therapy for some point. With that, I don't know if I'll go back to Darcy or not. Hopefully I will. I want to go back to her because she knows my past and everything like that. But yeah, so I guess that is all I have for this video. I guess also I should probably tell you how to find a gender therapist. You can ask your primary care doctor if they know that you're trans, or you can just ask, just ask them if they know of any therapists who specialize in gender identity, things like that. Also, you can do Google searches for therapists around you, and don't be afraid to try out more than one therapist. If the first one doesn't work for you, then you don't need to go back there. Don't feel like you have to go back to the same person just because you started with them. If they make you feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, then don't go back to them. If you don't feel like they're helping you meet your needs the way that you need your needs to be met, you can keep searching for other therapists. And if you find out that the first therapist you went to happens to be the best one for you after you've tried out a few, then you can always go back to them. So don't feel like you have to stick with one therapist just because you started with them. For me, I got lucky and my first therapist happened to be a really great one. But don't ever feel pressured into being with the same therapist if they make you uncomfortable or if it's just not going well for you, because therapy is there to help you. And if it's not helping you because the therapist isn't the right one for the job for you, then you're not going to get as much out of it. So those are a few tips. And also you can check out laurasplayground.com, and they have a list of gender therapists on there for different states. It's not quite an updated list, but it does have therapists on it. So you can always check that out as well. And some therapists do Skype calls, so you can always try to find a therapist that does a Skype call if you're in East Jesus Nowhere and can't in any way get to a therapist physically. Some do Skype calling or FaceTime or some kind of electronic form of therapy. So you could also look up those methods and see if there's somebody who would work for you in that way. And if you're searching for a therapist, I hope you find a good one. I hope that you get the help that you need and want and deserve. And I will see you guys next Friday. Peace.